G'day everyone! In my last video you saw how I installed this sound deadener matting all over the floor of the cab area here in my bus, and in this video I'm going to lay down the carpet. Now when I bought the bus this whole area was covered with vinyl, but the vinyl that was here was absolutely filthy. It was dirty, it was scuffed, there were tears in it. There was actually a colony of green ants living underneath. So I had to pull it all up, and I decided to just get rid of it because it was just so filthy and deteriorating. There was no way I was going to put it back in. And so now I need to replace it with new stuff. Now, laying down the sound deadener was probably the easiest job so far in this whole bus conversion. I don't think I'm going to be able to say the same for laying down the carpet on top here. I mean, as you can see, it's not a nice flat area at all. There are large humps where the wheels are. Obviously the engine bay is raised, and even on the relatively flat sections on the floor there's a whole lot of grooves and lumps and bumps in the metal floor underneath this area. So I have pretty low expectations as to how this is going to go, and I've seen people have quite a few problems trying to do this in their bus. I could have just gone and bought like a roll of vinyl or a roll of marine carpet and cut all the pieces to size and fitted it myself that way. And I did think about doing that. I've actually chosen to go with a pre-molded carpet from Trufit, and I'll put a link to them in the description below so you guys can check them out. Because you buy these things for a specific model of vehicle and it comes pre-molded to shape, the expectation is that it should kind of roughly fit and be a lot easier to cut into the area and stick it down. But I've seen in the Facebook groups that I'm in that these Trufit carpets get pretty mixed reviews and that a lot of people find that when they open up their carpet that it doesn't really fit exactly to the space. And they still have to do a lot of cutting and sort of moulding to get it into shape. So I'm going into this with my eyes open. I have pretty low expectations that I'm just going to be able to bring this carpet in and it's going to fit perfectly. I'm going to have to do quite a lot of work. But even so, I just figured at least it should be, like I should be starting with something that's kind of a little bit moulded to the shape of what I have to fit. And it might be easier to start with that than just to start completely from scratch with a piece of flat carpet. So, I don't know. I have no idea how this will go. At the end of the day, a lot of this area is going to be covered and you won't really see it. Like I've got the driver's seat to go back on the top here. There's, you know, I can put another mat on the floor in the footwell in the driver's area. Over here on the passenger side, I'm actually going to be building a platform for Pepper, my dog, so that she can travel in this area. So a lot of this is going to be covered. So I just figure as long as it looks reasonably okay, I'm going to be happy. Anyway, I'm going to give it my best shot and we'll just see how we go. So this is the carpet. I've had it out in the sun for a few hours this morning to heat it up, and hopefully that'll help to mould it a bit more easily. Okay, so I've kind of got it roughly in position where I think it needs to go. I mean, you can see down in this corner here, there's like the vinyl mat area where the driver's feet would go. So that's obviously where it sits. And you can see there's a slit at the front there that's obviously meant to go around the steering wheel column. And there's a hole in the center here which is obviously meant for the engine bay, but you can tell straight away that the hole that's cut out for the engine bay is nowhere near big enough. And over here, underneath here, there's another hatch that I need to have open to access the coolant and the radiator, and I'm guessing that's what this area is marked out for, but it hasn't been cut out yet. And even if that had been cut out to that size, just looking at it, I can tell that it's not going to be big enough, so the hole I need to cut's got to be bigger than that. And the other issue is that this carpet needs to go over the gear stick here, but there's no actual hole anywhere for that to be able to sit for the gear stick to be able to come up through that. So and I think that's the main reason why none of this is actually sitting right, because the gear stick is preventing it from going down and sitting nicely in the middle. So having said all that, it does look like it's roughly the right size and shape. And it is, you can tell that it is like sort of molded in the center here where the engine bay is, and it does feel when you're moving it around that it wants to sit kind of nicely around there. It's just that the hole's not big enough and it can't go further forward until I make a hole for that gear stick. So I think what I'm going to do first is try and work out exactly where to put a hole so I can put it over the top of the gear stick, and then hopefully it'll sit a little bit nicer up in this center part, and I'll be able to do the rest of the molding and fitting on the sides from there. Really hard to work out where to cut this to get the gear stick through, because obviously I don't want to cut a hole in an area that you're going to see. I need to be able to cut it so that the gear stick can go through, and then that hole will be covered over by the gear stick cover later on. It's just really awkward because none of this, like the carpet's pretty stiff, none of it wants to sit properly here at the moment because of the gear stick being in the way. So anyway, I just have to try and get close enough, I guess, and hope that the hole that I cut is in an area that I can cover over with something later. I don't know. See. It's really hard. Sitting a little bit better than what it was, so I think I'm on the right track. It's just really hard to know exactly where to cut this hole, and I'm thinking I'm probably going to end up cutting a much bigger hole than what my gear stick cover is going to hide at the end of the day, but we'll see. I'm starting to wonder if the carpet needs to go over this at all. So I'm just wondering if I took this off and had the carpet going underneath it, that it might actually sit better. Because it doesn't seem like it wants to sit over the top of that and still have enough room to be on the footwells on either side. So I'm not actually sure if I can take this off, but I'm going to give it a go, and I'm just going to see if that makes a difference to how the carpet sits, because it seems to be this that's causing me the trouble at the moment. So straight away, that looks like it's going to fit much better. It's getting a lot flatter, like it's starting to fit much better in the driver's side footwell, and it's also not pulling the passenger side too far over like it was doing before. As you can see, it's starting to sit a lot better in the driver's area here. This floor mat now is kind of just about flat on the floor. It's not being pulled up around the gear stick as much. Obviously I need to cut it around the I think that's a speed limiter there. I've got to cut it around the things to get it to sit better around the petals and so on. But it's at least sitting kind of nicely flat in position now. This is still, this up around the gear stick is still causing problems though. I'm actually thinking about cutting it right the way through, because there really isn't much of a gap between where the engine hatch cover comes and where the gear stick cover comes. They pretty much butt up against each other, so you wouldn't be seeing any carpet in between anyway, and it might be easier just to cut it right the way through to have this front half in sort of two sections. Might be easier to adjust it around there. That's kind of what I'm thinking. What I want to do is I'm just going to get this carpet out of the way. I want to put the engine cover back on, and also the cover over the radiator hatch, just to get a sense of where they come to, because I suspect you're not going to see much carpet in between them anyway, and I may be able to just cut that whole center area out. I'm starting to think it would be easier if I just did the carpet up and around the sides of this center section and didn't try to even like fit it across the top there, because so much of this gets cut out anyway. There's really only, like, apart from coming up around the sides here and the back, there's really only like a very narrow sliver in between these two hatches that you can actually see. And I'm thinking I can come back later and just glue a separate piece of the carpet along that hatch, like if I really care about what you can see in the gap there. This area here, actually the carpet came with 2 extra pieces, which I think are designed to sit over these anyway. Like, that's obviously meant to go, you know, on top of the engine cover there. And this little one, I presume, goes over that. I mean, that doesn't fit terribly well. Assuming that's where it goes, I don't know. I can't find anywhere else that it looks like where it might fit. Yeah, I'm not sure why they give you like this piece, which is nicely bound all around the edge, for that one, and then this engine cover is just a random cut piece with no binding at all. But anyway. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is actually cut out this whole center section here. So instead of trying to do 3 separate holes, I'm just going to do it as one whole section cut out. So my piece of carpet, I think, is going to end up like a big U shape, and we'll see how that fits. Fingers crossed. Okay, so you can see now how much better that's sitting, that I've taken that pressure off the center area there. So I feel like I'm on the right track. So I'm actually going to leave it at that for today, and I'll come back tomorrow and see if I can finish cutting it to shape and then have a go at sticking it down. Okay, so day 2 of the carpet install. So this is as far as I got yesterday. It is actually sitting a little bit better than it was originally, since I cut out this entire center section. And what I'm going to do today is just finish kind of doing a rough cut to hopefully get it to sit a lot better than what it is now. And then when I'm happy that it's sitting nicely, I'll go around and start kind of gluing and molding and cutting a little bit more precisely to hopefully get it to sit nicely. We'll see. frustrating because I kind of feel like I get it right in one area and then I go to work on another area and come back to the first one and it's all out of shape again. Might be getting to the stage where I'm going to have to start gluing parts down to get it all to like sit and stay in position. Okay, so I feel like I've got it pretty much as good as it's going to get. Obviously I need to cut out a little bit more around the engine hatch, but I'm thinking I'd like to get it secured down first and then I can trim around it while it's stuck down. But I'm pretty happy with the passenger side, which of course is the side that you're not going to see. The driver's side is, I think, as good as I'm going to be able to get it. I'm not really happy with how I did it around the steering wheel. I think I sort of cut it a bit wrong there, but anyway, I will probably get another mat to put in the footwell of the driver's area, so it might even sort of cover that up a little bit, but it's sort of sitting all right. So yeah, I think I'm kind of ready to start gluing it down. So I wasn't even sure really if I should glue this carpet down. I know some people put the carpet in and it just sits there and they don't put any glue on at all, and it will be held in kind of in places like here where the driver's seat's going. Obviously it'll be held in with the bolts from that. I do have some pieces of trim to go around the top of the engine cover which might help to hold it in, but it isn't really sitting well on its own. I think it is going to need to be stuck down, at least in some places, especially at the front, up around like the sides of where the gear stick is, and on the side of the radiator hatch and so on, and possibly up under the steering wheel a little bit as well, just to stop it slipping under there. So I am going to glue it. I'll try and use like the minimum amount of glue, although realistically the sound deadener is well and truly stuck to the floor now, so if I ever did want to rip it up for some reason to get to bare metal, it would be a major pain. Anyway, I think regardless of what I do with the carpet, so I'm hoping to never have to get under this floor again. So I just want to get this carpet to the point where it's like not slipping around and it's staying in position. So I've decided to glue it, and I'm going to use this stuff. It's Sika, which, you know, is a pretty good brand, so it should definitely stick, and it says that it's suitable for a whole bunch of things, including fabrics, metals, plastic, foam, so like a whole bunch of things like this, so it should stick pretty well. I've never used it before. I have no idea how strong it is. It does say you can readjust whatever it is you're gluing within 1 or 2 minutes before it totally cures. So hopefully I'll have a little bit of time to reposition things if I need to. I don't know. Let's just see what happens. Sitting everywhere except this one spot here that just seems to want to pucker up. It's really annoying me. I'm not quite sure how to fix it. Well, this is the final result. I think this is the first job I've done in the bus where I'm just not really happy with the job that I did. But anyway, it's not too bad. I mean, most of it's actually sitting really nicely. I just mucked up this front corner here trying to fix that pucker. And now it looks a bit crap, but I'm actually going to be sort of building things in front of this area, so hopefully you might not even notice that. But anyway, that's the best I could do. It's pretty tricky stuff to work with. You can see it's a bit rough where I've tried to cut it around the engine latches and so on. Hopefully once all the covers are on, it might look a little bit better. So we'll put them on and see what we get. And there it is. It's such a shame about this corner because the rest of it actually looks alright. I mean, it's not going to win any upholstery awards, but it'll do the job. And now that all the hatch covers and everything are back on, it doesn't look too bad. I can live with that. I still have to cover the top of the engine hatch lid, but I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with that yet, so I'm just leaving it for now.